notice pop up on the top of your screen. Just want to flag with you, if you're able to see yourself on the screen at the minute, then the recording is picking you up. So I'd like you to make sure that your camera is turned off, so you'll just see it down here, and your microphone as well is on mute. So again, if you can see yourself, then you've been picked up by the recording. So just knock your camera to off. Two things that I want to show you here is this chat. So if you flick on the chat, it'll open on the right hand side of your screen, and just down in the bottom corner you'll see a little text bar and an aeroplane. So if you have any questions or comments as the presentation is going ahead, just type them in there. Paddy is in the background, he'll pick up the questions and he'll put them to or bring Kieran and Owen's attention towards the questions. So type it into the box and then just use the little aeroplane to send the message. Other than that, everything is as is. So Owen and Kieran will take off. I think Kieran is going to take us in first. And basically tonight is about setting up a nursery and to be able to execute it in a really good and efficient way. So we hope you enjoy tonight's presentation. So Kieran will jump in there and I'll pull up the PowerPoint. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Tim is just going to pull up the PowerPoint there for me. So, Longford GAA Nursery program. So, the fundamental resources on how you use them with your group. So, what kind of games and activities you do for this age group. So, the breakdown of tonight, the content. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what a nursery is. I'm going to talk about a station-based nursery. Owen is going to go into then the theory, the fundamentals of the games and activities and why we do them. And then we're going to have some videos on the games and activities and just have a little comment on each. Then back to Owen again, he's going to go through the step and the tourist principles and how we apply them to this age group. I'm just going to give you some pointers on the equipment, indoors versus outdoors, and getting the parents involved, so parent and child activities towards the end. Thanks, Damien. So what is a nursery? A nursery is pretty much your Gaelic games for under sixes. So if we take this year 2020 as an example, 2014 and 2015 are when the kids would be born to take part in the under sixes. So they're game-based activities to develop the motor skills to play our games. As you can see, you've got a station-based kind of a diagram in front of you there. So this is a pre-prepared circuit that you'd have set up before the children would even come in. And like I mentioned already, they'd have an activity at each station, develop their motor skills, which I said already. So this is just all have it in a fun, safe and controllable environment with a little bit of organized chaos thrown in, which is always the case with this age group. So what does it look like for a child coming in? So you see the door down the bottom, mommy, daddy, granny and granddad, whoever brings them in, sign them in with a parent or a coach, so their name is taken and they're given a name tag, which is great help to all the coaches who might not know all the little ones because some of them may only be in junior infants and never came across them before. So the child has a name tag, moves on to the next coach who's going to give them a particular coloured bib. We'll say green for argument's sake here. Then with a green bib, so they have a green bib, so that means they're going to start in the green zone. So they're going to go up to the kicking game where there's a coach already ready to go there. So you might have 5 kids coming at a time. You give all 5 kids a green bib, keep them together. That coach can start straight away. The next group might get a blue bib and then they can start. So you stagger the process with whatever coach or station is ready. So it's all organized beforehand. You have your 5 activities set up. There's a coach ready at each. Then you can see a coordinator in the middle of it. So once the children are at their stations, they're playing away. The coordinator making sure that the right color bibs and zones are full. And if there's a coach running late, for example, if the yellow coach is running late, that's the last station that you'd fill with the players. The coordinator also control the time. So I've picked 7 minutes here. 7 minutes is what I use. So they do the kicking game there in the green zone for 7 minutes. And then once 7 minutes is up, the coordinator blows it up. They rotate clockwise. So from the green zone, they're going into the blue, the running and jumping game. And all the other stations have moved clockwise as well. So the kids are getting a feel of all the games 7 minutes of each of the game. There's probably about a minute difference, maybe 90 seconds that before you start the next game. So all in all, you're looking at 8 minutes a station, 5 stations, so it's 40 minutes. So you're allowing for the 10 minutes at the start and a game at the end, which I'm going to go through at the end. So in my opinion, the coordinator is the key person here, and that they're in control all the time, that they know what bibs are going where, and that they're keeping control of the time. I'm actually going to pass it on to Owen now, who's going to go through the theory of these games and why we play them.
Hi everyone, thanks a million, Kieran. So I'm just going to talk you through about kind of the areas that we want to coach with the kids. And the first thing I'd like to say is we're working with 4, 5 and 6 year olds, and those kids are, if they're not already starting school, starting pretty much very soon. So when they go into school, they start learning their literacy with their letters and their words and their sentences, and we're kind of doing the same thing with their physical literacy, so it's how well they can move. So they start with their letters before their words, before their sentences, and we have to start with the letters in movement, which is the fundamentals, the really basic things for the children. And then from there, they progress on and they start learning their sport-specific skills and their game-based things that they need to learn from there. But we're starting with the real basics. So as I said there, these things that I'm going to talk about are the absolute basics, and from that we can build on from there. If these skills are learned early, it makes sport-specific skills. So that's like your kick pass or your solo or your shooting. It makes that stuff much easier to learn when they're a little bit older. It's really important to try and incorporate these as much as we can through all the games. And then lastly, we have to think of these children as athletes before they're footballers and hurlers. There's no point trying to teach a 4-year-old how to kick a ball over a bar until first he knows how to kick the ball to start with. And that might be kicking from the ground and then kicking out of our hands. So we have to start from a really basic point and then move up from there. You can move it on there, Damien. So we have agility then is the first one. So really basically what is agility? It's our ability to move really quickly. So how fast can we move in terms of speeding up, in terms of slowing down and changing direction. So we want to be able to change in loads of different directions and be able to speed up and slow down as best we can. A lot of the children that you'll be working with, some of them might struggle with just being able to slow down where they want to go or to stop at the right point. So agility is one of the key things we'll be working on. Then moving on, we have balance. So balance is just maintaining stability. All of us are fairly familiar with what balance is, but in terms of if we think our sport-specific skills, doing a solo is a skill that needs an awful lot of balance. When we learn to do the solo, we don't really think about our balance, but if we have good balance, it makes learning the solo a lot easier, which these kids will hopefully be doing in the next while. Then moving on to coordination, which is key for our game because there's so many different skills in it that involve our hands and our feet working together. So as you can see there, there's hand-eye coordination, which most of us would have heard of before. There's foot-eye coordination, so that would be kicking. And then there's hand-foot coordination. So the one that really spells that out is when we're trying to solo the ball, we have to be able to see our hands where the ball is, drop it to our foot and get it back into our hands. So there's an awful lot happening there, and coordination is key to all these skills that we're going to learn later on. Moving on then, we have running, throwing and jumping. So you can move it on again there, Damien. Yeah, so we have running. So at this age, running is a key thing that we can bring into training. It's really good for building up their fitness. They'll enjoy the running if we include it in different games. And we want loads of different running. So we want running backwards, running forward, running sideways, diagonals, running in curves. Loads of different speeds, loads of different distances, and again you'll bring your agility into that. Running at this age, some children will be natural and they'll be flying, and other kids will have to catch up with them. But if we expose them to loads of different types of running in our games, they'll get better slowly but surely, and then later on they'll be mastering it. Then in terms of jumping, similar again, we want to expose them to loads of different jumps. So we have jumping in different varieties, different distances, and then in different start positions. So they could be jumping from 2 feet on the ground, they could be jumping from having 1 foot on the ground, and testing them and challenging them in different ways like that. But what we want to do is expose them all the time. And then we have throwing. So even though throwing mightn't be part of our game, we want to include as much throwing as we can, because it's the fundamental to learning how to do different things. My example would always be, I've never come across a child or even an adult who can hand pass the ball but can't throw with one hand. So we have to learn how to throw first before we can optimize our learning of the skills that are coming down the road. Then we have catching, passing, kicking and striking. So catching and passing kind of go hand in hand, go together. There's a lot going on in terms of catching and passing, and we need to work on our coordination and our balance and our throwing before we can work on catching and passing. But really the key thing is to keep it simple at the beginning. If they're starting to get really good at whatever level they're at, we can move them on a little bit, but we need to start at really, really basic. So that could be literally just bouncing the ball and catching it again, or it could be passing over and back. Then kicking, again, we want to start really simple. We don't want to start a 4-year-old and giving them a challenge that's unattainable. So even starting kicking off the ground or kicking a stationary ball is key. And then we can move that on to trying to kick it out of their hands or kick a ball that's already moving towards them. Then striking for hurling, definitely a key skill. It's, even if it's a football nursery, there's no reason that striking should be neglected. It's still a really important skill and really good for all athletes to learn. We all know these good athletes, particularly in teenage years, who just seem to take up to any sport, and it'll stand to them. If they learn something from one sport, they can carry it to the other. So learning striking will help them in different ways in football. And just on that as well, in terms of a nursery, a really good nursery should be very difficult to tell what is the sport. So whether it's a football nursery, or if it was a hurling nursery, or even a nursery for a different sport like basketball, the children should have a station doing loads of different things. It should never kind of be just all focused on one sport, because they'll be getting loads of exposure to different things, and it'll all come back to whatever sport they specialise in after that. So then we're going to move on to a few videos. We have agility first, so a couple of examples of games, and then I'll have a chat about them when I come back.
This is an exercise to develop agility skills. Place a Velcro tag or band at the back of the player's shorts. In pairs or with designated chasers, the aim is to grab the tails from the other players. The players with the tails must avoid the chasers by using evasion techniques.
So 2 really simple examples there of games that are going to work on agility. As you would have seen, both of the games are chasing games. So there's chasers coming to try and catch players, and then there's players that are trying to evade them. So any game that kind of looks like that will be working on agility. There's no need to get bogged down on the teaching points or what we need to be looking for in terms of their agility. If we're exposing them to it, they'll be learning all the time. The points I had in all the slides back there will be in the resources, and if you want to check out some of them things, the teaching points or what to be looking for, what you don't want to see, then you can look at that. But the key thing is just that we expose them to loads of different things. The crocodile tag was really good because it adds in the safety element. So sometimes if children are struggling, they might bump into each other or collide. So something like that keeps them at a safe distance, that there won't be as many collisions, and then also brings in loads of imagination, which is great at this age. So the next one then is some games on balance and coordination.
These balance exercises require the players to balance on their hands and feet. On all fours, lift one arm up and out to the front, then the other. Now lift one leg off the ground, then the other. Then lift the opposite arm and leg at the same time, and vice versa. Finally, lift the arm and leg at the same side, and vice versa. Mimicking the movements of animals is a fun way to develop balance and coordination. Common animals to mimic include the dog, the limping dog, the crab, the snake, and the rabbit. To further progress these exercises, get the players to change from mimicking one animal to another on a signal, or once they have reached a marker or cone. Introduce animal relay races to further challenge the players.
Put them on your head. Put them in your head. What's this? This is a dish that eat your breakfast out of. This is a hat. So you're going to be the hat. So if you come in, what are you going to do? You're going to turn it over. You're going to be a dish. So you want to, if you see it go like that, what are you going to do? Okay, Jessica, you're going to be a dish. So if you see a dish, what are you going to do? Keep it that way. So if you see a dome, what are you going to do? Turn upside down. Okay, you're going to be dish. You're going to turn all the cones up. 1, 2, 3, dish and domes. We've turned up all the cones. Is that okay? Are we ready? 1, 2, 3, dishes and domes. Ready? Let's go, let's go. Let's turn upside down. Whoa.
So again, 2 really simple games that bring balance and coordination into the players' training, but really the emphasis is that they're having fun, they're using their imagination, and they're enjoying it all the time. So that's the key thing at the end of the day. There's lots of different games out there that incorporate the balance and coordination. The animal walks is a tried and tested method, and then the dishes and domes, or some might know it as different names. That's a great one because they need the coordination to get their hand and their fingers into the cone and twist it. They need the balance to get down as quick as they can and twist it. So by bringing in loads of imagination and fun and even some competition, it's a great way of incorporating all these fundamental things. The next one then is catching.
As they become proficient at bouncing and catching in the stationary position, challenge the players to practice the technique moving around the playing area. They should practice using a 2-handed bounce and then 1-handed bounce. Encourage them to bounce the ball after every 4 steps. Finally, challenge the players to bounce the ball continuously as they move around the playing area.
Polar bears and fishies. We're going to beat Bigly. Are we ready?
So just 2 examples of games there. There's nearly an unlimited amount of games that can be played that incorporate catching. But the key thing to think about is to start it at the most basic level. So a child with a football or whatever type of ball on their own, maybe they're catching it stationary, so they're bouncing it for themselves. Then they could be using one hand instead of 2 hands, or then later on they could be getting a pass, so the ball might be moving towards them. So by starting with the skill being really, really simple and then moving it into complex, that's how we progress them on. But it is important to start at the beginning if the child hasn't mastered that level yet. Then Kieran's going to take you on for the next couple of videos.
Thanks, Owen.
This exercise requires the players to toss a beanbag using a one-handed underarm throw. The players may be challenged to throw the bags as far as possible or to attempt to hit a target. This exercise requires the players to run through the playing area, bouncing the ball in the hoops placed randomly on the ground, before throwing the ball to land into a bin or basket positioned at the end of the course.
The first person's going to pick up the ball. Pick up the ball. We're going to try to throw the ball through the goals. Will we be able to do that? Will we? We run. We get the ball. We bring it back, and the next person goes. Is that okay? So, Vinny, can you pick up the ball for me? Vinny's going to go first. Okay, you ready? Let's aim for the goals. So, Vinny, we're going to aim. We're going to throw it through the hoop. Oh, excellent, Vinny. Go get the ball. Let's see you, Jake. Oh, let's see you, Savannah.
So you would have seen 3 different throwing games there, 3 different levels really. So starting off the basic throw, just how far you can throw it, underarm throw. People always ask, Owen mentioned it earlier on, is why are we throwing and not hand passing? It's a step stone. So your foundation to hand pass is your throw. So if you can't underarm throw, like Owen mentioned earlier on, there would be no hand pass really. So you saw 3 different stages of it. You saw just a normal throw, then you saw a controlled throw into the basket after a few bounces, and then you saw the target practice at the end. And you would have noticed as well that there's no one big line coming up to throw it against the target, and that there was only two kids waiting each time to throw the ball. So the more hula hoops or the more traffic cones, whatever you have to aim for, the better, because 4 and 5 year olds keeping their attention is tough. I'm going to go on to the next one now, which is kicking.
In this exercise, the players kick past the ball along the ground to their partner. The players should attempt to use the front part of their foot with the toes pointed down. Placing the balls on a cap to raise it slightly may help the players to achieve this.
Is that okay, Emma? Nice and gently. So let's put the ball on the ground. Let's use our feet. Well done. Okay, let's keep our hands up. Is she okay? Is she okay? No, there's no worry at all. Are you okay? Okay. Did she get a bang or anything? No. Because I have ice in there if you need. Yeah, okay. Perfect. No worries, thank you. Well done, everybody. Next up. Well done, Harry. That's really good, Harry. Well done here in the middle. That's brilliant. Oh, well done. Let's try to use our feet.
There you would have seen kicking again. So like Owen said, you're starting at the foundations. There's no punt or hook kicks. You're kicking from the ground, kicking from a static position, kicking on the move and dribbling. So not unlike soccer at the start, you're getting the motor skills of kicking first. You would have also noticed a little one there with a bloody nose that's gone off, and you're going to see a lot of that at this age group, that they're coming and going, and that's why the parents, it's important to have them close. With kicking, essentially it's controlling the movement of the kick, and that's what we're leading into. I'll go next, Damien.
This exercise begins by getting the players to carry the beanbag in an open hand while walking around the playing area. The players should extend their arm out in front of the body. Progress the exercise by getting the players to bounce the beanbag in their hand while moving around. Progress the exercise further by using a small ball. Remember, these exercises should be practiced using the left and right hand.
All the parents get a balloon.
So there you would have seen the beanbag balance activity. Firstly, focus on balancing and controlling of the bag on your hand before a striking movement could come into it. So your hand passing hurling, your hand passing football. This would be the starting point for the hand pass. You need to be able to control the ball on your hand before starting it. If you have a hurling in your club, or like Owen mentioned, there's no harm to have it anyway. You could introduce rackets at a later stage where they're balancing beanbags on rackets, bouncing on rackets. Then we saw the benefits of using balloons in a nursery. So you can see that it's great fun for all the kids. You got the parents involved, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. Just while mentioning balloons, it's a good tip for the balloons is that, say if you're pumping them up every week, that if you've got a big double duvet cover, throw them all into it, close it up, bring it away with you, and it's good again for next week. So what I'll do now is I'm going to hand you back to Owen, who's going to go through the step process and the tourist principles.
So the step process, some people might have heard of this before, or it might be completely new to you. This is still, even now, one of the most valuable things I've ever learned in sports coaching, and I use it every time I'm out coaching or coming up with different games or whatever I need to do. So the way it works is we have step there, so we have different meanings for each letter. It's how we can change or adjust a game or manipulate a different game to make it a little bit harder or a little bit easier, whether it's for an individual in the game or for the whole group of players that you have. So S stands for space, so we can make the space bigger or we can make it smaller. So even at nursery level, we can change all our different games to suit the players that we have. So if the kids are finding it really easy, we could make it bigger, or if they're finding it really tough, we could make it smaller. Depending on the games, making it bigger or smaller will change it from harder to easier. But there's a video to explain that later. Then we have two kind of double meanings for T. We have time, so we can limit the time that they have, or we can give them more time, again, making it easier or harder. We can change the task. So, for example, We'll talk about it in the video, adding in an extra thing that they might have to do, or putting in another skill. It could be, instead of trying to catch the ball with 2 hands, they have to catch it with 1 hand. We've used task, we've changed the task for the child, and it's made it a little bit harder. Then E stands for equipment. So what different types of equipment, or how can we use the equipment we have? So a really simple idea there is using a different type of ball. So we could have a reaction ball or a smaller ball, again, making it easier or harder. And then P is for personnel and how we use the players that we have. So in terms of if we have a catcher, or do we have 2 catchers, or do we have someone who's standing stationary, or do we have all the players moving? So using this step model, we can change so many different things about a game, and usually by changing 1 or 2 things, we can make a game much easier and much harder when needs be. So Damien's just going to play the video now that explains it best.
The step model is a great way of changing games to make them harder or easier to suit your group of players, or even them as individuals. The step model involves manipulating 5 key things that can alter any game: space, the task, time, equipment, and personnel. If we take the game tail tag as an example, we have 7 players running around an area with the bib hanging from their side. If done inside, I would recommend using a walled corner as to try and keep the children within the area. One of the players is nominated by the coach to be the catcher. They will not have a bib, and on the coach's whistle will attempt to rob all the bibs from the other players. This game is focused on agility, with players speeding up, slowing down, and changing direction to evade the catcher, ultimately trying to keep the bib safe. Let's see how we can use the step model to adjust this game. We can make the running area bigger to allow players more space to work with and more time to slow down, speed up, or turn. This makes the game easier, as they will find it easier to keep the bib safe. As they improve, we could make the area smaller, as to cause more twisting and turning, and to challenge the players further in trying to protect the bib. The smaller the area gets, the more children are challenged to use their agility skills. Assuming we have 2 different bib colours, we can add a simple rule of placing any bibs that have been robbed into the correctly coloured pile. For example, in the diagram, we have a blue and yellow pile marked. The game begins and is played as usual, but now once players rob a bib, they have a new task and challenge of running to a particular spot with the bib as quickly as they can. Again, a good challenge for agility. The coach may challenge the players to keep their bib safe for a set time, for example, 5 or 10 seconds. The players will enjoy trying to achieve this goal, and depending on how well the group is doing, the time can be extended. We can often use our equipment to adjust our games. For this game, we can simply give the players 2 bibs each rather than 1, meaning they have an extra life. Players will now need to be aware of players coming from both sides. This can also be used for individuals to help them if they are struggling. Finally, the way in which we use the players can affect a game. Up to now, we had 1 catcher per round who would attempt to rob all the bibs from the other players. From now, if the catcher robs a bib, he or she can put it at their side. The player losing the bib now becomes the catcher. This allows the game to continue with everyone staying involved all the time, and should mean more players have a turn as the catcher.
So just to finish up there on the step model, I can't recommend it enough. It gives you so many options and ways of changing little games to work on the things that you want to work on all the time. But just one thing to keep in mind is try not to change a game just for the sake of keeping it fresh or adding a bit of variety. Try and change it to suit something that you want to do. So if you find that the kids are getting a bit bored because the game is too easy, try to use the step model to make it a bit harder so that they'll get a bit more of a challenge out of it. don't just change it every week or every 2 minutes just for the sake of changing it, because otherwise the kids will get not a lot out of it. You want them to get used to it first and then adapt it from there. The next thing I'm going to go into then are the Turris principles. So these are Turris principles that have been rolled out by Leinster, and we're delivering them to all the clubs in Longford. Really, I suppose this is a guide to how to do quality coaching. So it doesn't matter what level we're at, whether it's minor or all the way down to nursery, we can still do quality coaching in the same ways, even though we might be coaching completely different things. So some of the things that are key to look for is, are we testing and challenging all the players? So as I said, by individualizing what we're doing, what tasks the kids are doing, we can make sure that it's testing and challenging. So for example, if we're doing the bounce and catch game, if we can challenge some players to use one hand and other players to do two hands at their level, then they'll definitely find that testing and challenging. Understanding the players at the centre of the game is key. So at nursery level, really the key thing there is to ensure that they're having fun, that they're always busy, and if we can, that they have a football or whatever it might be part of the game, that they always have what they need for the game. So to them, they're very selfish at that age, and for it to be player centered, they need to be busy all the time. They don't want to get bored for 5 seconds. They need to be busy, and that's how we'll do that. Definitely at this level, we're a long way off a 15v15 game, but by keeping the games really active, by keeping them unpredictable, and by including footballs as much as we can resemble the game. Then moving into all players involved all of the time and then getting in loads and loads of touches. This is definitely done by giving every player a football in the games that involve balls, or keeping them involved in all the tag games. So rather than having a game where they get knocked out often, try and keep it that they're always involved. So like the tail tag game, when they got knocked out, instead of them being knocked out, or when they got caught, sorry, they became the catcher. So it never actually happened that anyone was standing out waiting for the game to end. They were busy all the time. And then should always be enjoyable, developmentally appropriate, and a holistic GAA experience. So the things that I take from that are try and engage the kids as much as we can. And one of the simplest ways of doing that is by using their names as much as we can. It can be very hard to learn their names, but hopefully we can try and get better week to week. And if we start using their names, it's much more engaging for them. And then if we can try and make memories. So for them, the smallest little thing could mean the world to them, whether it's pointing out that they did something really well, or giving them a high five, something like that sends them home very happy, and that can make a lasting memory for them that we mightn't appreciate going home in the car. So if we can use those Turris principles as much as we can, we'll be doing quality coaching. I'm going to hand you back over to Kieran now, and he's going to take you through the rest.
Thanks, Owen. Just before I go into the equipment there, William Connaughton had a question there. Would the parents be a distraction during the session? Absolutely, but in a good way, I'd say, because at under 6, you'd be encouraging all parents to stay anyway. But if they're the far side of the hall, you don't want the kids running around, or if they're sitting in a waiting area that they're running off to them, having them close by, having them even participating in it. You saw with the balloons that they're playing the games with the child, they're encouraging the child, and you'd be amazed at the confidence the child will get by having their mum or their dad take part in the games with them. And I have a section towards the end there that will highlight that better for you, William. Another question there from Dermot. For nursery level, how much ball would be involved in it? So I would say if you have 5 stations, at least 2 or 3 of them would be involved in the ball. So if you might have a catching game like Owen's tail game there, you might have a throwing and catching where they all have their own ball. Then you might have another section which is working on balance and coordination, and then you're over in the corner you might have another kicking. So maybe every second station would involve the ball in some way, but using the fundamental skills Owen mentioned at the start. I hope that answers the questions, lads. If not, throw it in again. We'll do our best. Just on equipment, I've already mentioned balloons and how good they are, useful for them, and an easy way with the duvet cover to keep them for next week, save you blowing them up. And I've also mentioned having a ball a lot. So I know balls and equipment are expensive, but don't go buying 30 First Church O'Neill's footballs. Go down to Sports Direct, I think the Sandico balls, €3.50 each. They're a great ball, they last you forever. So Mr. Price, Deals, Sports Direct, get footballs, get basketballs, get little tennis balls, any sort of a balls, especially for the throwing and catching target practice. It's good to work with different size balls. Again, not everything has to be bought. Use milk cartons, fabric softener, 5-litre water bottles. Ask the parents to bring them in for next week. Put a few stones in them just to weight it down, and then you've new targets to knock over, like bowling for the gallons of milk. So you have them set up so they're kicking at them, they're throwing at them, and it's a good way to target practice. Again, name tags, hula hoops and stuff, Deals, Mr. Price, don't go spending a fortune on these things that you're going to be using all the time. Large traffic cones, most clubs have them outside for directing traffic or keeping off potholes. If they bring them in, use them as targets, use them as goals, use them as dividers. Most clubs have them. Just before I move on, I think there's a few more questions there. Paul McManus, is a station's approach better than the whole group doing the same exercise? Definitely, for various reasons, in my opinion. Firstly, you're going to get more parents and coaches involved, so you have to have a coach and parent at each section. So straight away, there's more people in the community, there's more people involved. If you have all the kids doing the same exercise, are you realistically going to have 40 balls, whatever your numbers are, that they're all going to do the same thing? Are they all going to participate at the same level? Have you got enough size wall for 30-40 kids to be throwing it at it? Breaking it down into the fundamental zones, like one was suggesting, that way they try everything, they get a chance. There's a low coach to child ratio, which is great, so easy to keep an eye on things for safety reasons as well. What view on parents helping out and not having Child Protection Foundation, etc.? Great question. So not having a Child Protection Foundation course done, the parents are only engaging with their own child, so they shouldn't need to have anything like that. If you're going to be working as a coach, obviously they'll need their child protection, their Garda vetting and their foundation, but when they're working with their own child, they don't need it. Good question though. What do you think the implications of COVID-19 are on and coaching this group? To be honest, no more than yourselves. We're just following the government legislation. We don't know what's going to get out. Damien has a great point there. Get kids to bring their own favourite ball and you get great selection of balls. So they bring their own ball. They could have the new World Cup one or whatever kids are on about at the moment. That way they keep an eye on it. They have their own ball and they like playing with their own ball. And a teddy bear again, another great suggestion, Damien there. So instead of a beanbag, they might have a teddy bear to bring along, so they can do the balancing with that, and they can do the opposite course, bringing the teddy around. Next, the team play continuum. So Ger O'Connor in his book wrote about this team play continuum and thought it was a powerful message to get across, in that at the different stages, so under 6, under 8, under 10, under 12 and under 14. So really not until under 12 do you even start talking about a team. So under 10, you're in 3s or 4s, you're starting to learn to play with us. Under 8s, you're in partners, you pick someone, you're playing with them. But at under 6, where we're at right now, it's me and my ball, it's my own ball. So it's constant using your own ball, getting the mastery of your throwing and catching, your kicking against the wall is the best way to do it in these games. So indoors versus outdoors, again, most nurseries will go outside during the summer, and it's definitely great to get outside in the good weather and stuff like that. But having one indoors, you can do it all year round. You can do it during the winter when there's nothing happening. It's weatherproof. You have walls to work with, like I said, so if every kid has a ball, they're throwing it up against the wall, clapping, catching, all these kind of things. More secure. Having your nursery section, so there's one coach maybe looking after 5 or 6 kids, all the parents are around, there's no taking off running, the kids can't get away, and that it's all confined in a secure location. Parents are close, hopefully to get them involved, and I'm going to go through that in a second. You have a great atmosphere. You won't beat the atmosphere of 40 kids in a small parish hall having a great time, parents getting involved. It's brilliant. It's powerful stuff to see. And again, it can work all year round. Now, you're going to see a picture of a lot of parents. It's actually taken in America, but just for reference it is, it doesn't matter. Just want you to have a look at this picture before I play the next video, and I'm going to open it up, the comment section again. I just wanted you to see what are the key differences, what you think works better, and your thoughts on the whole parents involved. Okay, thanks, Stephen.
What you gotta do with this child is just mirror. They have to react to whatever you do. So for the first minute or two,
The adult is the leader. Now, do you want to go with me? High five. You two come together. Everybody. Well done. Let's try use both hands. So we're going to reach up tall. Sometimes it might be on the ground. It's going to make it harder. Oh. Well done, guys. That's super work. What's your name? That's brilliant, Alex. Super work. Well done. What's your name? You're very good at this one. Head. Knee. Belly. Back. Eyes. Ears. Nose. Toes. Cone. Pick up the cone. Pick up the cone. Who are the winners? Eyes. Nose. Knees. Toes. Back. Belly. Knees. What are Pearson's? What are Pearson's nose? So watch, guys, watch. Watch me. Things on the roller ball. Keep moving.
So if anyone has any comments, ranting, comparing don't get me wrong, it's great to see all those parents out there watching, but getting them involved, like William said earlier on, are they going to be a distraction? Yes is the answer, but in a good way, in my opinion. They're there, they're with their own child, they're learning the games with them. So again, what I would have done, and Paddy's mentioning it there, drip feed the parents' involvement at the beginning and end with a flourish. So it could be a case where you have a nursery where your parents are involved from start to finish, or you might have a nursery where the parents are reluctant, might not be sporty people, and that having a game like that at the end, going on their head, Mario and Luigi, whatever it is, just getting them involved in the end gives them something they can go and they can play with their kids at home. It might identify that goofy, silly sausage person that might be involved as coaching one of the stations towards a later stage. And it's just a great way, again, powerful to get the parents involved. That could be the starting block for them to be a coach in the club towards the future as well. Just a few tips here on running a nursery, so anyone starting one up, this is a great slide just to take away. Again, going back to William's point again, the parents must stay for the duration of the session. They're under sixes, they're 4, they're 5, possibly 6, so they're going to be very small, so they're not going to be left alone. Getting them to stay for the session, again, they're there, they're on the side, so get them involved, get them throwing up a ball for their own child, playing with the balloons, whatever it might be. ensure you have lots of fun equipment, so hula hoops, beanbags, balloons. Again, deals, Mr. Price, €2 shop, they're your best friends for this kind of thing. Take advantage of what facilities and equipment you have. So walls inside, your traffic cones outside. Empty bottles, get the parents to bring in their 2-litre gallons of milk for next week. All nets can be used to climb under. Next point, bathroom breaks are parents' responsibility. So because they're quite small, they could be going to the bathroom a lot and in the middle of games and stuff like that. No need to do anything, just let all the parents know if they go to the bathroom that the parents have to bring them. It's a no-brainer, makes your life easier, and then, again, the parents are close by. Name tags and bibs, again, makes life so much easier. So there might be a new coach this week or somebody helping out for the first time, and they're going to see all the name tags. They'll know all the kids' names straight away, so it's easy to connect with them. And the color-coded bibs, so if you have a green bib on, go to the green section. That's where you're going to start, and that's where you finish up. So getting parents to bring water for the child. So any chance you get, after a couple of stations, maybe you might have a water break or a halfway break or something like that. Have them bring the water and have the laces tied beforehand. Makes life easier on everybody, so that you as a coach explaining a game is not tying 4 kids' laces while everyone else is waiting for you to start it. Again, I can't recommend indoor nurseries enough. Going back again to the reasons why you have it inside, but definitely bring it outside when the weather is nice. But having an indoor, just be able to have it all year round, secure, safe, and a great way to run an organised chaos session, really. I'm just going to hand you back to Damien now. He's just going to go through the resource before we finish up. And if you have any questions, just type them in there. We'll get back to them before Damien finishes up.
Yeah, thanks very much, Kieran and Owen. The lads will come back to you in a couple of minutes there with any questions. So just take this opportunity to type in anything you have. So anybody that's been with us previously, at this point in time, I just take you to show you the resources and where you can get them. Anybody that's new to us and seeing it for the first time, we just go to our Longford website, longfordgaa.ie, and under coaching, we have coaching webinars. So just give that a click and it will take you to the page which has all the details from the last 4 weeks. So week 4 is tonight. So in here we got the link to our activities, and tomorrow morning I'll put up the recording of tonight's show and you get it there. So you see the previous 3 weeks are all there as well, and so you just click on that and it opens into a shared folder. So there are 2 things in this share folder. The videos is a compilation of all the videos you've seen tonight, all put together in one movie. And then we've got the resource itself. So the 2 girls that you've seen there in the Leinster tops, they have ran the program for Leinster. They designed all the resources. They designed all those videos. It's a really, really super resource. So we've pulled it together. We've added in a couple extra little bits from tonight and the points that Owen was covering there at the beginning about the ABCs and the RJTs and the SPKSs. That's all at the end of the resources. So I think there's like 47 different activities within that resource, and you can use as much or as little as you like, but there's definitely a year's worth of stuff in that. And again, as Owen had said about STEP, the more you get to use in STEP, you won't need as many activities going forward. So just to flag going forward, we haven't promoted this yet. We'll be doing that from tomorrow morning, but we now have a May series coming up. We have a new link to register, and you'll be able to get a little brief outline of everything that's coming up for the month of May. We're going double sessions, so we'll continue our webinars on a Monday night, and then we're doing some live in-depth interviews with sporting personalities on the Wednesday night. So I'll send you all an email tomorrow. Everyone who had expressed an interest in any of our webinars to date, you get an email tomorrow with the flyers and all the details. So you can check that out, and we'd love to have you back for the month of May, and hopefully you enjoy what we have been doing so far. I'm going to finish up here now. I'd sincerely like to thank Owen, Kieran for tonight, but for the last couple of weeks, Paddy O'Connor, John Higgins, Brandon Gillard, Michael Kenny, Frank McNamee, James Carroll, all of those people have contributed to everything that we have done over the last 4 weeks. We've got some super feedback from you all, which has been much appreciated. And I think a lot of people have got a lot of benefits from this, considering we've had 16 different counties from around the country have partaken in what we've offered. So again, I hope you enjoyed it. Sincere thanks to the team of lads. They put in an awful amount of work, and we look forward to seeing you again in May. So I'll just hand back to the boys to wrap up. Thank you.
Thanks, Damien. Just on a point that Paddy O'Connor had there in the chat, it's a very good point. You would have seen the hall in the videos in Portlaoise where the Leinster girls did the videos. It's a massive hall. The hall I use is about a quarter the size of that. It still works brilliant. We can have anything between 40 and 60 kids, so don't be put off if you don't have a big hall. Use your local parish hall, use the school hall, whatever is in your parish. You can definitely do something. Don't be put off if you don't have a big hall. It's definitely worthwhile, even if you have to go 2 different slots, 2 45-minute slots. Definitely worth it. Have you anything to add there, Owen?
Yeah, there was just one question that we kind of missed along the way from Paul. He was asking, is the stations approach, is there much of a benefit to that? And Kieran, you'll build on this, but definitely I would recommend doing it in the stations way, because for you as coaches and for the kids, it makes it a lot easier and a lot clearer in what we're going to do. So there's not as much time wasted in preparation and deciding what game we will do next and setting them all up. So by organising your stations, it might need a coach per station, which can be a problem at the beginning. But if we can achieve that, then it's very easy to move the games on and move the kids around the circuit. So to try and make it easier for the coach that's at that station, all they need to do is prepare 7 minutes of a game, and then they just repeat that 5 times. So it's not like you need a coach that's going to plan out an hour or a half an hour of stuff. It's literally just 6 to 7 minutes that they need to plan, and it makes it easier for them. So it could be a way of recruiting people or even parents into a role like that. That if a coordinator designs what they're going to do, shows them the game, gives them an explanation, then the coach might be able to step in much easier than having people to commit to doing loads of prep work and then coming on the evening as well. Also, Kieran had the trick with the bibs in giving the teams a colour. So I've been at one of his sessions in Slashers, and the hall is very small and there's huge numbers at it. So without the bibs, it'll be complete chaos. We wouldn't know who's going where or where the children are, where they're meant to be. So the bibs add a real clarity that the kids themselves know, I stick with all the red bibs, and the coach knows the reds are coming to me next and I'm taking the greens next. So it just adds that clarity. Kieran, I'm sure you have stuff to add to that.
You pretty much covered it there, Owen. I suppose a key element as well is that you mentioned recruiting the parents and coaches, and they'd only have to learn one basic thing for the 7 minutes is brilliant. But safety wise as well, if you've only have to worry about 5 or 6 kids at a time instead of your big group at 32 or whatever you might have, it's much easier. They're all colour coordinated. All of a sudden you're supposed to have 6 greens, you've only 5. Straight away you know there's a green missing. So again, small hall, they're not going to go far, but again, it's just being able to control everything. It is organised chaos. They are 4 and 5 year olds. They love messing and love jumping around, but just trying to control what we can control it is a key part of it. I don't think there's any more questions there on.
No, it doesn't look like it. But
really nice comments, guys. Thank you very much. If that's it, I think we'll wrap it up. Thanks a million for listening to this, and don't be afraid to contact myself or Owen. We've both set up nurseries recently in clubs in Longford, so if you have any issues or any questions about it, don't be afraid to contact us.
Hope you got something out of it, guys. Thanks a million, and we'll see you soon.
All right.